Hello. I know I don't normally show my face on this channel. This is a bit more of an important video, though, just kind of showing off my SIP, or at least the basis of it right now. Technically speaking, that class doesn't start till the second half of the semester, though the fundamentals of what is needed is already done. So I will just be showing that off. I might have been showing off before, though I fixed some glitches since then. There's a lot of dev notes you'll see at the top still. I just never silenced those because those are still very much needed in the process. I am also almost done with all the animations for one of the characters, that being the bug character, which is right over here. There's a high poly 3D version, low poly 3D version, vector version, high pixel and low pixel version as well. So 5 different character models in general. It's hard to see right now, but of course you still swap sides. You can kind of see the little bit of glitching the pink does. I've added something new to the game recently called perpetual motion, which is basically just making the characters constantly move back and forth because without that, there was a big issue of these attack projectiles just going through the person. And it's also kind of neat that by just doing that, it kind of added some hit back. And as you can see now, you see the basis of what happens. Once you reach 80% health, you are now low poly 3D versus the high poly. There's also just some general stuff going on that makes the character this way. I can probably add some booleans though, because I really noticed that there's some weird lag when you like jump because the character constantly moving back and forth at like a 0.01 scale of just back and forth. But it's somewhat noticeable once you start like actually moving around and maybe when you're trying to do some more precise things, creates this weird kind of floatiness almost. So yeah, if you just keep attacking, boom. Beforehand, the projectiles would go right through the other person. There still needs to be some code to make them just disappear if they miss the opponent. And with this, you can still attack in the air, though the actual characters that will be in the game will likely not be able to, except for maybe E, because E is the projectile-based character, whereas I is the grappler. Though given the simple scope of the game for right now, they both might be able to attack in the air, unless the code dictates otherwise. As you can see, I've already brought myself to low pixel, boom, boom, bop. And as you can also see, I've also got the blue and pink working properly, as that was an issue a long time ago, which I finished minutes after recording that video. There is still no win condition to the game. There is still no UI for a menu. There will not be a UI for a timer regardless. I will be adding UIs for the character faces towards the top of the screen. And I can kind of just go a little bit more into the character right now. If you want to see things like how the character spawning is working, how the camera's working for following people, that's been explained in previous videos that you can either find here on my LinkedIn or on my YouTube channel. But going into the character, basically just some general stuff that we've also already gone over, added controls and health bars, a lot of input stuff due to the unique inputs you have to make, as well as just some general stuff you have to do with locking the characters to a certain plane. This is supposed to be working, though as of right now, it might just be more useful to do a reference itself. I'm also not sure if anything is actually pointing to that no health, except for maybe something in here. Nope, the change face is not doing anything with it, though I could probably do something with it with this. But the change face function is the most important. We'll be looking at that in just a second. For now, this is just something new that added perpetual movement. It's on an event tick. It's on a flip-flop. So one tick will do this, the next tick will do this. I can definitely just add some booleans to basically say, hey, if the movement speed is 0, then do this. If the movement speed is greater than 0, don't bother having the character go back and forth. And that's the way I'm likely going to optimize this. As you can see right now, it is world direction X on both of them. Scale value of 0.01 and 0.01, but in the negative, so they move back and forth ever so slightly. Change face, just kind of setting visibilities of these various things. So you want vector, pixel, and the mesh to have nothing. New visibility, blank. So I guess in this case, though, since the mesh is already there, that is Y. And then as you go through, you see certain things. Mesh, do target set visibility, mesh, pixel, character. These seem kind of contradictory. Maybe I was trying different things. Propagate to children was probably one of the more important stuff. I'm actually not quite sure what this does. But if you go forward, this is when things actually start getting important. So We get our health value, we get our current health, max health, divide that. If it's lower than 80% health, the 3D character becomes the low poly circle. The code will have to be a little bit different once I actually have the new models in for both the characters, since they'll still be going off the same character. It'll have to be a situation where the 3D character on its own is not at all visible, and just upon the construction script, I'll have to figure out which one is visible. And I still need to figure out how to communicate from a UI menu to it, though I'll probably be using a singleton to do so. That seems the most sensible way, and doing it through character controller 0 and character controller 1 to basically set those values for them. And you'll see this kind of process over here repeat a lot. So current health divided by max health, less than 60%, or technically 60 and lower. It boom becomes 3D character is no longer visible. Vector character becomes circle vector. Though you might be better off actually, now that I think about it, optimizing wise, destroying the 3D character. Though the reason I believe I didn't do that is actually just in case your character is able to heal, which none of the characters are able to heal. Perhaps the zombie one will be able to at some point, or maybe some other characters will have some more sort of life stealing if I get that far with this game. So as of right now, making them just not visible is pretty good. Though once animations are included, I might want to swap that to something else, or at least swap the animation blueprint to 0. Since these currently don't have an animation blueprint, there is no optimizing needed yet, though I can very much see that in the future. Continuing just the same situation, flipbook, visible, pixel character, becomes visible. Actually, setting flipbook, that's important. This will basically be how animations are set for 2D characters through Paper ZD, though as once again there is no actual animations, it's more just a matter of setting it to a thing that appears as a sprite, and it does really good at making the sprites higher quality as they appear. So once we reach 40% health, boom. We are now onto vectors, which actually talking a bit through this without saying it correctly. Interesting. Ah, I see. So with this one, I select the asset and make it nothing. I might do that with something else, but that might be a way I can do it. Yes. See, well, now we're just learning on the fly. What I can actually do is set the static mesh or skeletal mesh, as will be the case in the future, to just be none. So once they reach a certain health bar, I can set it to none and still have that 3D character value there. So if it ever heals, you can then just respawn in the character. That is how it's going to have to be done. That is going to be it. This was not quite the precise video I was planning to be, but we're actually learning a lot going through this. This is my first time looking at my code in a while, as I've just been generating art. Yes, as you can see, kind of similar situation from Circle 64 and Circle 32. Those, I believe those are on different, nope, pixel, pixel character. Yep. It was more a matter of certain things having to be slightly different due to the just size values, with the vector characters being on a 2048 pixels, where the other ones are 64 and 32. So just the general values had to be very different. Boom. So yeah, you can also see like all the UI updated that happens at the top right when the game begins, because that's just updating all the UI. It's also just setting all the UI on the screen. But it is nice that this game is technically functional. Though of course there is no obviously hit stun or anything right now, so functional might be an understatement for what this game is able to do. Though it is pretty interesting that, well, I'm pressing the wrong direction on both the characters, aren't I? Yes. It's interesting when you try to play as both characters and I had them on opposite sides of the screen, so my controls are a bit off, though the way the controls are set up are actually very perfect to play single person, which you can see those controls in the previous video. It is nice that there's sort of a little bit of hit stun, not really, like you can still just move through it, but it does hit you back ever so slightly. Once again, this will not be the full state of the game. One character will be a projectile-based character, so this is just good knowledge to have right now. Otherwise, the other characters will be more of a grappler. Though in the case of the SIP, they will only have a singular attack, which would be like the swiping attack, which we already have fully done and animated. I don't have my external hard drive in, so I can't really open Photoshop to show most of that. I can show, at the very least, a very minimal version of the animation. I say minimal because it is currently at the point where it's, I believe, it's double the frame rate. So it's going to be double speed once it's actually in the game to make it smoother. This might be it before I did. Nope, this is it before I added the extra frame. So basically, this is the attack animation. But think about it, but just double the smoothness. And that's what this attack animation will be. It might be even more sped up when it's actually in game, as it is kind of a slow thing, though. It depends how much you're going to be able to actually freely move or anything while you do your attack. But this is the character right now for I, and then there's a lot of other stuff I can kind of really quickly open. I'm not sure how much of this I already had, so this is the 32 version. This is, where is the 64 version? Which is weirdly smaller because I don't think I've upscaled it anywhere. So 64 version looks a bit weird when it's like that. So not quite the proper look. The vector version's already in game. For character E, this is the 32 version. Once again, would be much more benefited from having an upscaled image, but without Photoshop, it's kind of hard to show that. 64 version, actually, show the 32. Or is it? No, no, no. This is okay. This is the 64. Once again, image needs to be upscaled properly, which Unreal does really well, as well as things like HSprite. HSprite I could actually open because that's on my computer. Though I was planning to do a lot of animations in that. It just never really worked out because I'm just in a situation where it's really working a lot better for me just to use Photoshop. So I'm basically puppeteering the characters rather than animating them in a normal pixel sense. This is the lower version for this character. There's a lot of better ways I could have made this character for having his legs still straight out. They were straight out for a while, though the way I created the skeleton, it was having a hard time moving both the legs, which I realized later on how I could have optimized that. But this is where they're at, and this is the higher one. It's kind of harder to see, but you look at the head, especially, it's much more of a smoother round. I believe it only has one iteration of smooth. Oh, this is one of the animations. This is the idle block, which might still be useful. The situation was going to be basically if you were staying still, you're just going to naturally take damage because, like, for a while I didn't think of the perpetual motion. So since that's in the game, we might have a situation where you actually do have a block, and I just need to basically create a separate idle where the hands are no longer in a blocking position. And that is probably going to be the situation, which makes the animations a bit more complicated all around, but not severely so. Since a lot of the 2D ones are basically just make the normal hands visible with the other hands that are like this or angled like that not visible because not Unreal, Photoshop is kind of weird with its animation timeline where you can't really rotate things without rotating all the frames. So it just propagates in a weird way. Any other good one? The attack animation. You can kind of see where this one's at in comparison to the 2D one that you guys saw previously. There is that little glitch there you see that is actually not in the game, as I have actually imported a lot of that stuff. For game, eye character, some of his stuff's already in there. I still need to create an actual proper texture for him, which I'm going to be creating two sets of. One for the higher version, one for the lower version. The higher version will also just have more details, as well as it'll be 496, while the lower version will have a 248 texture. 240, sorry, 2048. Well, the other one has a 4096 texture, if that wasn't clear. Oh, that's just the block one. Where is the attack? There we are. Yes, as you can see, the glitch is not here. There's a bit of a snap, but that is also just because it's towards the end of the animation. So it's ba-dum. And honestly, yeah, I'm very liking this. I'm also kind of really interested by this color palette. I still need to add the mask to the character, which I still need a texture and everything. And basically, I'll just be adding it to the skeleton, and through construction script, the mask will be added. Although it will be blocking a lot of his really cool face, I will likely find ways to probably have the mask go away during hit maybe for a little bit, then respawn. And that is kind of the idea. Not sure if I'm able to propagate that properly to the 2D versions without doubling my load essentially, but for the 3D versions, it'll be very much possible. Though for consistency's sake, I might have to exclude such a feature. And yes, that is where the game is at the moment. It is still a long way to go, but it is functionally halfway there for what is required, at least of the assignment especially. The assignment especially really basically is required this feature working, and the rest of it is just now me actually aesthetically doing this with the two proper characters. And that is it for NIE today. Thank you for watching.